All right, we're ready.
Think loud music. Think soca and calypso playing from huge speakers in the background. Think people in the streets just dancing, singing along to music, having a good time. Think vibrant colors, costumes in different shapes and sizes. This is Carnival. Today I want to inform you about Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago. Carnival was dated back to the 18th and 19th century when the first set of French Catholic planters and slave owners came to Trinidad, and right after came African slaves. These planters would have masquerade balls. They were well dressed and having a good time. However, the slaves weren't allowed to take part, so they had their own festivities, basically mimicking how the planters would dress. And they included their own customs, such as beating drums, stick fighting, their different songs and music. And when the slaves were emancipated, some years after, they kept the tradition and they named it Canboulay. It is French for burnt cane. Carnival usually happens after Christmas but before Lent. And in Trinidad, it's known as the dry season for us. When back in that time, we used to do our own sugar cane production. So that is the time we would burn the cane, cut the cane, and send it to be produced, to be turned into sugar, which is where the name came from. And with times changing, it went from Canboulay to Carnival. Carnival is basically the gathering of people to have a good time. Carnival is known for its music, it's known for its festivities. It's a time where it's supposed to be 3 days, but it usually starts like months in advance from July, August. We have band launches. These are the bands. To name a few, Tribe, Yuma, Utopia. They have these launches, which is basically a party, but it's also like a fashion show where people dress in the costumes that they would have, colorful costumes, huge costumes, small costumes, that they would have for the upcoming carnival season. We have endless parties. We have all-inclusive, which is you basically get free drinks and food all night while you're having a party. We have wet fets. It's just water, you party in water. We have what we call juvie, which is anything you could think of that's dirty. Mud, paint, chocolate, powder. Again, it's just a party. We have what we call boat rides. It's a boat cruise. For 2 to 3 hours, we're partying on water. We also have the biggest part of Carnival is our musical competitions. We have the Calypso Monarch, both junior and senior artists perform their own written songs, and for a title, we have International Power and Groovy Soca Monarch. It's the Power Soca Monarch it's also artists writing their own songs, but it's the power it's a upbeat music. You jump, you dance, you act foolish. Then the groovy is a bit slower, it's more mellow. We have road match. Road match is for the 3 days that you are on the road in your costumes. The song that is most played is tallied, and then on Ash Wednesday, which is also the beginning of Lent in Trinidad, they announce which was the most played song. That person gets the title of road match for that particular carnival season. We have Panorama, which is our national instrument on display, the steel band. And again, these are in bands, it's not individual. We have bands like BP Renegades, Phase 2. Those are some of the major bands that we have. They choose a calypso or soca song to play on the instrument. Whether it's an old song or a new song, the song is of their choice, and they play it in the savannah or wherever they decide to have the competition. And again, they're playing for a title. After all the parties, we head to the road. After the months of partying, we head to the road. And this is after all the competitions and all the parties, all the boat rides, we head to the road. Carnival Sunday for us is what we call Kiddies Carnival. It's a day for the children. They dress up in their costumes, they go to the streets, they have a good time. They cross what we call the big stage, which is also the Mecca. They have their day on Sunday. Carnival Monday starts at 3 or 4 a.m. We start with Juve, and Juve usually goes on till about 7 or 8 a.m. No later, because then you have to go to meet your band to join for the street parade. And in your band, you parade, we cut off about 5 p.m., sometimes 6, for the day. And then Carnival Tuesday, we meet our bands on the road again, and on Carnival Tuesday we cross the big stage. And on the stage all the bands cross, and the last band that has crossed the stage is officially the end of Carnival season. So we have months of partying and 3 days of crossing the stage with different bands, different costumes, also being judged. And on Ash Wednesday, which for people who are Catholic, they would go to church, decide what they're giving up or changing about themselves for the Lent season and after. Some people, we go to the sister Isle of Tobago, we go relax, go to the beach, just what we call the cool down after all of the partying and drinking and stuff. Some people go to one last party. They just can't help it, they go to one last party. And then some just stay home and go to the beach in Trinidad. Because both islands have beaches, some just choose to go to Tobago. When it comes to Carnival, everything is bigger, it's brighter, it's louder. There's no, I need some peace and quiet. Every street you're on, whether you play mass or not, there's some type of music playing, someone's cooking and inviting somebody over. It's always on the go during Carnival. And before I leave, I just wanted to say that Carnival, Monday and Tuesday are public holidays in Trinidad today. But we just don't go to work, and that's understood. If laid back were people, it would be Trinidadians. Thank you.
Did you have anything written for me?
I don't believe so. Did I not send it?
I didn't get it.
Is it okay if I present and resend it or try to figure out what happened later?
Okay.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're ready.
This is a penny. Yes, it's the least valuable U.S. currency, but if you doubled it every day for 30 days, you would end up with $5.6 million, which is all the value that we would all appreciate having in our bank accounts. This concept of accumulation is great in the financial world, yes, but it's also good in the fitness world as well. Getting the proper daily amount of exercise is key for our physical health, our mental well-being, and as well as our sleep and recovery. The idea of starting off slow and gradually increasing may be painful for the first couple of days because you may not see a lot of results, but by the end, the final day, you'll see yourself from the start to the finish as a totally different person. Getting the proper amount of exercise is great for your physical well-being because you have 206 bones and over 600 muscles in your body. That's a lot to take care of, right? But actually, it's pretty simple. Getting the proper exercise by doing aerobic or anaerobic workouts, and anaerobic workouts are such as powerlifting, high jumps, sprints, and aerobic workouts are more endurance-based. So swimming, biking, or going on a walk in your neighborhood with your dog or friends. If you have time to watch your Netflix show for 3 hours, you can definitely get on the bike for 20 minutes a day and get your solid workout. The mental well-being is a side of the fitness industry that is not talked about a lot. Granted, because people are scared to publicly open themselves up, but one study said that over 21 million people have had at least one depression episode in their life. And in my opinion, that's 21 million too many. And I believe it was 47% of those episodes were based on appearance, looks, or confidence that they had. Getting the proper 30 minutes to 60 minutes daily of exercise will not only boost confidence, but it will also make yourself happy about the person that you see in the mirror. Excuse me. Sleep is something we all value. I mean, we love having our nice Thanksgiving meal, going home, and enjoying the nice 8 hours that we get by enjoying the turkey. But getting the proper 7 to 9 hours of sleep is something that we may not always get. Even though we hope we do, we may not because of school, work, social life, or trying to cram this assignment in at the last minute at 11:59, which I'm assuming one of you guys have done at one point or another. The benefits of getting the proper amount of exercise and sleep are just like Professor Rhonda's format of getting a good grade in class. They're set in stone. The more time you put in and the more effort that you distribute, you'll see better results. Yes, everyone wants the A+ grade, and everyone wants the physique like The Rock, but that cannot be happened without time, effort, and hard work. So the benefits of the proper exercise and the amount of sleep that we get is crucial for our physical well-being, our mental status, and our recovery time as well. Thank you.
Thanks for the applause.
It is true. Okay, so about is that okay? I see everyone's still writing. COVID-19 was hard for a lot of us, some more than others. But picture this, you're 9 years old, you're back in elementary school, you wake up, your parents get you up, they take you to school, you go in there, you meet your friends in the morning, and then throughout the day you have lessons, end of the day you get on your bus, you go home. Unfortunately, for almost a year and a half, from 2020 to 2021, that was not possible for a lot of students. COVID-19 had a major impact on education with the advent of remote learning, adjustment to social distancing, and overall disrupted learning.
Oh, I'm sorry. We never let him. Oh, we did. That's somebody else. I'm sorry.
No. COVID-19 had a major impact on education by introducing remote learning. Remote learning is when an educator and student are not physically present in the same traditional classroom. A lot of students had to quickly adjust to technology literacy. A lot of students had to learn how to use a computer pretty much overnight. Also overnight, a lot of schools in the country nationwide shut down. There were 48 states, including DC, and 4 US territories that made the decision to abruptly close schools. One day you're in school, the next day, it was a whole new world. Students and teachers had to transition to remote learning. Majority of remote learning took place on screen, and a big advent of that was how comfortable a lot of us are with Zoom, Google Classroom. Some people use, I forgot the name, sorry, Teams, I believe. And again, overnight, students had to learn that. Students as young as like 8 years old had to learn to use a computer pretty much immediately. 200 years of education changed immediately. The COVID pandemic had a major impact on education with the incorporation of social distancing. Social distancing was the combined efforts of staff, students, and the state to try to bring back students into a normal education while limiting the spread of COVID-19. By doing this, masks became more prevalent. Students were wearing masks in class. When they came back, there were glass partitions or plexiglass partitions between everyone, and students had to spend 6 feet apart. I don't know about you, but if you've ever had students, young kids, and try to tell them to stay away from each other with 6 feet, they couldn't tell you 6 feet if they tried. They're hugging you, they're doing all this stuff. A quote from Corey Turner of NPR: "Most schools had little to no experience with remote learning. When the pandemic began, they lacked teacher training, appropriate software, laptops, universal internet access, and in many cases, students lacked the ability, the stability, and the supportive adult at home." Multi-children homes were harmed the most due to this, because where I work is a more urban area. So some families didn't have a laptop to their name. When they were provided a laptop, initially they were provided one laptop. One laptop, 3 kids, different grade levels, doesn't necessarily mix well. Because you'll have students who, you have a, middle school student, elementary school student, high school student, varying schedules, going to different classes at different times, and on top of that, they necessarily didn't have a stable internet connection either. Speaking of urban environments, higher poverty areas suffered the most due to this, because if a student would attend school normally for a year, well, not normally, virtually for a year, they would miss up to 7 to 10 weeks of lessons or materials. Now, in a higher poverty area, that number jumps from 20 to 30 weeks of materials they missed, because lack of stable internet connection, devices, and overall, like the quote mentioned earlier, support at home. In conclusion, the COVID-19 pandemic had a major impact on education by introducing remote learning, social distancing, and disruptive learning. education getting disrupted was a big crime and a disservice to a lot of the students. A lot of the students' education, they're going to grow up with a giant, what's the word? Portion of their education locked in a time capsule they can never get back. Whether they learned what they missed, it doesn't change the fact that that is a year and a half of quote unquote normal childhood they can never receive again. They have to just move forward from it. And there are many ongoing studies going on to determine what that future is going to look like for a lot of them, but it's still up in the air. Not too many people know what's going to happen. You see there's someone here?
Yeah, you should probably let him, or leave the door open.
No, don't leave the door open. We don't want to interrupt the speaker while they're speaking, so that's the reason.
No, that's fine. I heard him speaking, and then I was like, yeah, I stopped.
Sorry about that.
Very good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm quite certain everybody in here got a cell phone now. I'm here this evening to inform you of the advanced technology to the phones, telephone, cell phone, and advanced technology from the cell phone to smartphones. Okay. First telephone was invented by Alexander Bell in 1876. He did this while he was studying for harmonic telegram. He spilled some transmitting fluid, and sound developed, and that's how he came about the telephone. So that was invented then, but it didn't go into effect till like about a year later, and a few years later, and just give you an idea what a telephone was back then. This is how we communicated, and telephone. There's no dial tone. I mean, no, there's no dial. You can't dial. You pick it up, you click, okay? And that is done. When you do that, you go straight to an operator switchboard. This is how we had to talk to people, communicate, if you wanted to talk to somebody. But you couldn't talk to nobody right away. You had to wait till the switchboard was available so the operators, because there's many operators, to connect the leads to who you wanted to talk to. So a few years later, it's about, I think it's like 3 years, a gentleman by the name of Alman Stoger invented the telephone that has invented the rotary and the push button dial tone, push button phone. And that was like this, and some of you may have seen this in your grandparents' house. Don't nobody have a landline phone now. I'm sorry.
I
This is
still
what I
have
wrote.
a landline. It doesn't look like that, but I still have one in my kitchen.
This is your rotary phone. You still got one hanging up on
In
the
my
wall?
kitchen, yes.
You still got a landline? Some of you may not have a landline. Yeah, that was a rotary phone. This one here is your touch dial phone. This one, the rotary phone, you had to like wait to get for it to go around and come back to dial the number you wanted to dial. This one is automatic, and you just push it and get the. But you didn't need the assistance of the switchboard operator anymore. This was only time you need an operator if you push 0 and you wanted to talk to somebody long distance, or you had an emergency. That's the only time you would use the 0. And then later on, 10 years later, William Gray invented what you call the phone booth. Anybody seen a phone booth? It's a payphone. So we didn't have cell phones. So if you was out and you need to call somebody that had an emergency, you had to go to a phone booth. And the phone booth would cost you 10 cents a minute. Okay. Now that we just discovered the telephone system, let's move right along here to the cell phone. First cell phone was invented by Morton Cooper in 1973, which was wasn't functional, but he invented it, and it was it was by Motorola, is the Dynotech, and then like 10 years later, he invented the Dynotech Dynotech 8000X. Okay, and this was your typical cell phone, your first cell phone. Can you imagine carrying that around all day long? Put that on your hip. Okay. And not only that, the price tag on it was like $4,000. You couldn't text on that. And then a couple of years later, Nokia came out with different. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention: the antenna was so large, it made it really not a nice phone. And then Nokia came out with one similar, but this one had a big antenna too. It was bulky, but you could text with this one. This was a text. You can text. Then, okay, I'll show you that later. Okay, so technology was moving pretty fast. So 1998, this was your first one of your small cell phone. And this one you could text on. The screen was small, but the way you text on this, if whatever you wanted to do, your numbers had letters on them. You had to push the number as many times till you get that letter up there and you see it on the screen. And now you can send it. That takes a little bit of time. Okay, then they came out with the flip phone. Same thing. Okay, some of y'all probably seen that. Now, I have something else. Oh, yeah, and then we didn't have cameras on the phone. And I think it was 2004 it came out, flip phone with camera, but you could only take a picture from this way. You couldn't flip it around and take a selfie like this, you know? That didn't happen. So, and moving right along here. Now that we have the understanding of the telephone and the beginning of the cell phone, let's move on to the advanced technology of the cell phone. Okay. I got my cards on this up now. Okay. Okay. In advanced technology of cell phones in 1973, Nokia also made a smaller phone that you can just fit in your pocket or carry on your hip. There's no more gigantic phones, and you can also take pictures. Okay, sorry, I'm unorganized. In 1998, that was in 1998 when Nokia introduced a smaller model phone that you can carry in your pocket or on your hip. It was easier to conceal. Okay, between the years of 1980 and 1999, cell phones upgraded significantly, where you can have apps, games, FaceTime, internet, web surfing. All those things were added to the cell phone that made it impact the way we communicated. And also there were many of them. Okay, in 2007, right? Anybody know what happened in 2007?
iPhone?
iPhone, you got it. Okay, talk about iPhone. Whole game changer right here. No more flip, no more keypad. You got a one touch, right? Swipe open, you got your apps, everything at one finger touch. Your very first iPhone. Surprised I got all this stuff, right?
That one works.
Yeah, it could work. Because they ain't hooked up to no network. So, it made it much easier to navigate, to do all kinds of things. Just push a button, you get your contacts. Okay. Push a button, you got dial tone. You push another one. Then you got your app store. You can download all your different apps, and this is the phone where you can companies will download, have their company's apps being able to be uploaded on these phones to do jobs at your job. For instance, my job, we use cell phones. If you ever been to stores and people working and they had this big old gun running around scanning stuff, today companies are using cell phones. All the employees get a cell phone now. You clock in, you need to talk to somebody or your supervisor, you text them. You send them a message. And that's the technology, and that's how it has changed the way we communicate today. and how it has impacted our lives so much that there's like you just got like a little mini computer in your pocket. So technology has advanced. Technology has evolved so much that it has impacted our lives so much by the way we communicate and get messages across. So, can you hear me now?
Dominic, I didn't get your written document.
Oh, I'm supposed to print it?
You were supposed to send it to me last night. 11:59 at 3:30 today. It wasn't there either.
Okay, so you can check now if you want it's there.
That's okay. You can give it now.
You want to get it started?
1 second. Okay, we're ready.
Everyone good? Okay. So let me start off by asking you all a question. You ever been ordered to do something, or told to do something that you really didn't want to do? How about someone telling you that that's something against your morals? What if you're told to kill somebody by someone with authority? That was the question that Dr. Stanley Milgram sent out to solve during the most famous psychological experiments in the 20th century, the Milgram shock experiments. At the eve of World War II, a lot of people are wondering, why did the Nazis commit the Holocaust? Who in their right mind, morally or subjectively, could ever commit that much heinous moral action? That was the question in everyone's minds. Hey, 13 million people died. 13 million people needed to be killed by someone. People all over the world are questioning why or how. Today, I'm here to inform you about why the project or the experiment was conducted, what the procedure was, what the results were, and what the analysis of the results were completed with. To start off, on June of 1961, an ad of the New York Times paper was put out for a Yale research project. Anyone could show up. However, unfortunately, males from 20 to 50 were the only ones who showed up. Everyone that showed up were given $4.50 upon entry. They were given more upon completion, but you got $4.50 for showing up. That was the incentive. In total, 665 people showed up, and the project and research was conducted. This ad was put out 18 more times following with 18 different newspapers. Now, Mr. Milgram completed this out of the sheer curiosity of, why, as I just stated before. In total, he wanted to figure out what situation, what guidelines could influence human behavior so much that would go across their natural biological morals. He did this with the help of the US government and Yale University backing his research. Now, start off with the procedure. It's a pretty lengthy one, so stay with me here. It started off with, there was 3 roles: that of a student, that of a teacher, which was the volunteer, and that of an administrator. Both the student and the administrator were in on the project. Now, the administrator would lead the teacher or volunteer into a room. There was a one-way mirror. The teacher could not see the student on the other side. Now, the administrator would tell them that you are going to give them a test, the student a test. Every single question that the student answers wrong, they were to administer a increasingly high amount of voltage shocks, from 5 volts to 450. To preface, 300 volts is lethal. Now, every single time that the question was asked, the student purposely got the answer wrong. Now, let me preface, there was actually no shocks. It was all fake. But the student was acting like it happened. He would scream, ow, plead, please don't do this anymore, I want out. But they kept going. Mr. Milgram figured out that there was 2 different ways for people to complete such heinous actions. One, they would have to figure out and agree mentally that the person giving the proctoring is someone of authority, the administrator. Every single time that the pleading started, all the volunteers got antsy, every single one. Must I continue? Must I do this? And every single time, they would be prodded by the administrator from very slight words like, the experiment needs to continue, please continue. Or, there could be no more delays, please continue. 2, they would get up, walk close to the thing, you have no other choice, continue. 100% of the 665 people that participated inside of the event administered lethal shocks. 65% of the 665 people that participated went all the way to 450, even if the student became unresponsive after 300. 18 different experiments were committed, 100% every time. Now, one of the variants of the 18% was there would be 2 teachers inside of the room, 2 volunteers. And if they split up the shock works, 92.5% administered 450, well past the lethal margin. All of them were interviewed afterwards. Why did you do it? Why didn't you stop? What's wrong with you? They all said that they felt like they had no out. The door was open, they could leave at any time. But they felt like the administrator was putting too much pressure on them for them to even think about leaving. All he said was 4 phrases. He didn't get closer than 6 feet. He wasn't blocking the door. He was actually the furthest away from the door. But because of the person viewed the administrator as someone with authority, they couldn't possibly refuse. So the analysis of the results were that if someone with authority would come up to you and ask you to do something that is immoral, 65% would probably go with it, even if it was fundamentally against everything they stood for. So, to conclude, I have told you the prelude for the Milgram shock experiment, the Holocaust, and how the Nazis were able to kill millions of Jews without having an eye. Then, told you the procedure, step by step, of what was prefaced, what was done, the variables, and the overall conclusion. I've also given you the results of the 665 participants and what happened, and the analysis of that, where, unfortunately, 100% administered lethal shocks. So, to put you back onto the first question, if someone with authority told you to kill, would you? Thank you. Sorry, that brought down the mood a bit.
What's that?
Yeah, it's my son. Oh, okay. That would help.
Okay.
4 out of 1,000 babies under 6 months old. First, let's think about how little and how soon that is after you come to life. Now second, imagine all of those babies in the hospital for a life-threatening virus that is attacking their respiratory system. That is just a glimpse of 1 month of numbers from this RSV season in 2022. There has been more positive tests for RSV in October from just infants and newborns than there has ever been in the past 2 years. It's important to be familiar with this virus because it's potentially deadly to newborns and infants. They can't control their breathing properly. So if you've ever had a baby, been around a baby, you notice sometimes they breathe differently, faster or slower. You can't really tell as a first-time mom or a first-time parent if that's normal, if that's something they should be doing, if it's something that is irregular. So when they're sick and congested and you can hear it and see it, you are told to suction their nose, put on humidifiers, put them in the bath, the steam will help. But that doesn't help you mentally as a parent to say, okay, is this help me? Is he okay? Is she okay? So RSV is a virus that's dangerous primarily for infants and toddlers and for people, including adults with compromised immune systems. It attacks the lower respiratory tract, which can lead to life-threatening symptoms such as pneumonia, bronchitis, and also develop allergies that you've never had before. Today I'm going to speak about the way RSV is transmitted, complications it can have in infants and newborns, and ways we can protect them. RSV is primarily transmitted through an infected person's cough or sneeze. Not just the act of a cough or a sneeze, because if you cover your mouth or if you use a tissue, if you step away from everyone in the room, nothing can happen. But if you're coughing, let's say I'm this close to Kia, and I let out a cough, and droplets get next to her papers, her pen, in her eye, if she breathes them in, if she touches them and then touches her mouth, touches her face, she's potentially going to be affected now. Touching surfaces such as doorknobs, light switches, or even countertops in your home, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in your room. The virus lives on countertops and all surfaces that don't get wiped down daily for 24 hours. RSV transmission for newborns and infants is usually through a loved one giving them a kiss, a loved one touching them without washing their hands. And the same goes with toddlers and infants transmitting it to their parents, to their father, their mother, their siblings, or anyone that comes to visit. If you get too close to a toddler and their hands are always full of some type of, you never know what it is. It can be spit, it can be snot, whatever it is. They touch you, and now if they're sick, now you're sick. One way to stop the spread is not coming close to a child's face, no matter how old they are. If you kiss their hands, kiss their arms, especially newborns, newborns put their hands by their face. Newborns put their arms in their mouth. Newborns are not able to wash their hands. So if you're touching the newborn and you're sick, the newborn's gonna get sick. It is also highly contagious. So if you know someone that has RSV and you've been around them and you didn't protect yourself, you're most likely to get sick. The complications of RSV vary from person to person. Like I mentioned before, if there are a person with an autoimmune disorder, if it's a person that's asthmatic, if it's a person that is prone to diseases and viruses, they're gonna most likely get sick. The main one from this RSV season has been bronchitis. Bronchitis is the inflammation and congestion in the small airways that lead to the bronchioles. It almost always comes from a virus, whether it's COVID-19, RSV, any virus causes this because you're straining to breathe. It causes wheezing and making it hard to breathe. It mimics asthma. So what I have here is an inhaler. This inhaler is for adults, which is also used on kids when they have breathing complications. This is a spacer. It's called a chamber in medical terms. You put your inhaler here, push, medicine comes through. This must be on the child's nose and mouth. They scream, it's okay, better, medicine will get in faster. Without this, adults use it fine, but once you push this button, the medicine comes right out. If it goes into the air, you've just wasted a pump of albuterol, which if you have asthma, you know they're not cheap. So the second one is pneumonia. Pneumonia is controlled by antibiotics. Inhalers help if you're having trouble breathing, but it's also an infection that you need antibiotics for. When you have pneumonia, your lungs are filled with fluid and it's extremely hard to breathe. Most children that are in the hospital at the moment for RSV are admitted because they have pneumonia and they have to stay at the hospital until the pneumonia clears up. Lastly, patients that have suffered from RSV develop allergies to certain allergens due to the sensitivity they develop in their lungs and nasal passages. RSV is a virus that's most likely caused and spread by contact of someone who's currently infected. Therefore, if someone has a newborn or an infant, wash your hands, stay away from their face, and wear a mask if possible while visiting. Just because you don't feel sick, follow these steps anyway. A simple sneeze or cough that you may think is harmless can cause a baby their life. If you're sick, stay home. The best way to stop the spread is isolation. Just like every other aspect of life, communication is key. If you know you are sick and you've been to a party, if you've been to a family member's house, if you've been to someone's home that had a child, text them, call them and say, hey, I woke up, I'm a little sick, just thought I would let you guys know, watch out for symptoms. So to conclude, RSV is a respiratory virus that's dangerous in infants, toddlers, especially those with compromised immune system. It attacks the lower respiratory tract, which can lead to life-threatening symptoms and hospitalization. Be safe, be sanitary, and be cautious of who you're around. Not only can you make babies sick, they can make you sick. Please be wise, wash your hands, and sanitize. And this is actually my son's. He had RSV 2 weeks ago. Actually, when we made the first one virtual, I was glad because he was really sick.
Oh, wow.
So, my doctor when I was little thought I had that. He was wrong, but I have experience with that.
Yeah. Well, him and myself and his father are asthmatic, so she's scared that he'll develop it, but it was scary. 14 days.
How's he now?
He's better. He's better. Yeah.
How long did it last?
It was, he got it the start of November, which was the 6th. That one class we had virtual when we did our last stage.
Yeah.
And then I took him to the doctor that Friday, and he just got better before Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
How did you know he had it? From how he was breathing really hard?
Yeah, so actually my mom.
Oh, your mom?
Yeah, she goes, I think he has asthma. I'm like, Mom, he don't have asthma. He just has he probably has the flu. I did call the doctor when he first got sick, and she goes, just keep him home, keep him hydrated. But then my mom came over, and since me and my sister had asthma, so she was listening to his chest. She goes, he's wheezing. You probably need like breathing treatment for him. So I took him the next day, and the doctor heard the same thing she heard. So. Yeah, my mom.
Yeah. Thank God.
Right.
Good. We're ready.
Being this cute must be so freaking rough. Today, I would like to inform you why having patience, being committed, and being affectionate is needed to raise a new puppy. An easy way to raise your new puppy is by having patience. Having patience when raising your new puppy is needed because it is a lot of work and time. First, we all know how difficult potty training could be, but it is the most important thing that we need the puppy to learn. According to the Daily Herald newspaper, they say take the puppy outside frequently, at least every 2 hours, and immediately after he wakes up, and after playing and eating and drinking. From my experience, my puppy would always have accidents as soon as he woke up in the morning. I learned that you have to put the puppy first, forget about yourself going to the bathroom before the puppy, because as soon as you leave him or her alone for just a second, they will relieve themselves right where they are. There were also times where I would get so mad because I would accidentally step in urine. But this taught me to have patience with my puppy because I know that they have a small bladder and need to urinate frequently. Daily Herald again mentions accidents will happen. When you catch the puppy in the act of eliminating in the house, do something to interrupt him, like clapping your hands. Once you notice that your puppy stops, immediately take them outside so that they know where to do their business. As soon as they get done, give them a treat and praise them so that they don't make the same mistake and know what to do for next time. Another easy way to raise your new puppy is by being committed. Being committed is needed when raising your new puppy because you have to stay consistent. For example, when you first start feeding your puppy, you need to feed them with the required amount of feedings. Most commonly, 3 scheduled feedings per day. In the scholarly journal by Citizens Voice, they advise to establish a feeding routine by feeding them the same amount at the same times each day. Doing this helps them keep their digestive system regular, which can make house training easier. This will also help prevent accidents happening in your household, like mentioned before. Consistency is also required when taking your puppy for checkups. In order for your puppy to stay healthy, you want to stay up to date with their vaccinations. In the article, Dog Domestic, on the website Issues and Controversies, they state that a veterinary checkup within 24 hours of purchase is necessary to confirm a dog's health and to set up a schedule for vaccinations against the devastating viral diseases most common to canines, canine distemper, and rabies. Be sure to observe your puppy for any new changes in their eating, sleeping, and using the bathroom, just in case you need to take them for an emergency checkup. Another easy way to raise your puppy is by being affectionate. Being affectionate is needed when raising your new puppy because they require a lot of attention. When my puppy first got home, he could not sleep without me. Separation anxiety took over him, and I had to find a way for him to sleep alone. I first found that leaving him with a shirt with my set on it convinced him that I was still around. But then there were other times where I just had to sleep on the couch with him next to me so that he wouldn't feel alone. Until he got older, he learned how to stay on his own and realized that I would be there as soon as he woke up. Also, you want to try doing a few things that your puppy loves doing so that they could feel loved. Taking my puppy on a walk is one of his favorite activities to do. This gives them a chance to get out and explore, and not only that, but it gives you and your puppy a chance to get out and exercise. In the scholarly journal by one of the authors, Carrie Westgard, says, many of these studies have highlighted that walking a dog can be a potentially important population-level strategy for increasing physical activity. Another activity that my puppy loves to do is play with his toys. I have to constantly hear him squeak his toys all in my face because he wants me to play with him. I believe that this is important to do with your puppy so he doesn't get bored and it finds a way to bond better with your puppy for a better and fun connection. In conclusion, you now know 3 ways to raise your new puppy is by having patience, being committed, and being affectionate. If you are someone who is looking to purchase a puppy, you now know a few ways on how to raise one. It could be a challenge, but you and your puppy will certainly learn along the way. So the next time you suggest that you want to raise a puppy, just remember to have patience, be committed, and be affectionate.
Sure, we have something that we're all passionate about. Today, I want to inform you guys about the history of wrestling. The history of wrestling began 15,000 years ago, and it didn't become an official sport until 1904. And there are actually various forms of wrestling around the world, and fun fact, wrestling is actually considered one of the oldest sports in the world. And the U.S. has won 129 medals in wrestling at the Olympics, and out of the 129 medals, 52 of them have been gold medals. The history of wrestling began 15,000 years ago. Cave drawings were discovered in France centuries ago, and in France it began around the 1830s. It started out with no equipment. You didn't have headgear, knee pads, nothing like we have today with modern wrestling. It was all just straight, just hand, that's it, and then nothing else. It became popular in ancient Greece. It didn't become popular in France. It started out over there, but it didn't pick up. Originally, it was only developed as a way to train soldiers in Greece for hand-to-hand combat, and it had no intention of being an actual sport, but it developed into a sport. And then wrestling didn't become an official sport until 1904. And in 1888, in New York City, New York, they hosted the first organized national wrestling tournament. After that tournament, the popularity rose for that sport. And then in 1904, in St. Louis, Missouri, it was the first city to host a wrestling competition of modern Olympics. And in that Olympics, the only team that was competing there were American wrestlers. So you had no other country competing in that tournament. So, and there are various forms of wrestling around the world, and it's actually 6 different forms of wrestling that they have found. And you got the most common one, which is freestyle, which everybody knows about, and then the Greco-Roman style, which was in the Olympics in 1896. That's when it was first introduced. And then you got other forms of wrestling outside the U.S. So you got one in China, which is Shuai Jia. In India, Pelwani, and then Mongolia, Bach, and then you got one in Iceland, and that's called Glima. So in conclusion, wrestling has been around for decades, basically, and then there are like a bunch of various forms. It's actually very hard to believe that it's been around for 15,000 years. That's a really long time, and it actually still remains one of the most popular sports still to this day, even in the U.S. Thank you.
That's everybody that's here right now. But if they don't come within the next couple of minutes, then they're gonna miss out. All right, very good. You all really did improve from the last time.